More money, more money. Miss Parker's like, oh, you thought you were done spending money? Nah, you little bitch, you. I'm just getting started. What's up, guys? Welcome back. I have been tinkering on the car the last few days, and I've actually gotten a lot of things done, starting with the exhaust manifolds have been installed. And funny story, I put all the studs on for the exhaust manifolds, the new studs that we purchased, and I go to throw the exhaust manifold on. It went on to the studs perfectly, but then when I went to go put all the nuts on, it didn't work because the studs are so close to the runners that there's no space for me to get the nuts on. So I ended up just leaving one stud on each end just to help me get the manifold into place. And then luckily I didn't throw away the ARP exhaust manifold bolts that I had, so I just ran those in all the other holes to hold the manifolds on. And then on the passenger side, I couldn't even do that because I tried to do the same deal here and put one stud on each end of the passenger side, and I threw the manifold on, went to go put the nuts on, and they didn't even fit. Let me see if I can show you. It's real tight, man. Yeah, so you can see there's just no room to get the nuts on, which sucks because those exhaust manifold studs are not cheap, and I purchased them thinking, you know, that it was just going to be an upgrade and it was all going to work the way it's supposed to. But of course it was another fail in the process of putting this thing together, but it's all right. The manifolds are on. I also got rid of the pesky O2 sensor that was seized in the exhaust manifold. If you guys remember that, we had a O2 sensor that was seized in this exhaust manifold for the longest time. I could not get it out, and even with the exhaust manifold off, I tried my hardest to remove it, and I had all the leverage in the world. I had whatever angle I needed because I had the exhaust manifold on the table, and I still was not able to get it to budge. I brought the torch out, I heated it up, I even heated up the O2 bung from the inside of the manifold because since it wasn't on the car, I was able to direct the flame through this opening and heat up the inside of the O2 bung, and it was glowing red, and still it would not budge. So what I ended up doing was cutting the body of the O2 sensor off, so all that was left was the nut, the mounting nut of the O2 sensor. I jammed an impact socket on it, gave it a couple ooga-doogas, and she came out. Problem is, she took all of the exhaust manifold threads with her. But you know what? I wasn't gonna let that defeat me, so you know what I did? I cut all the threads off of the O2 sensor plug that we had, laid the plug onto the O2 sensor hole, welded it up all the way around. So let me see if I can give you guys a good look at that. Right there, you guys see that? Welded that little bung into place. So no more O2 sensor in the exhaust manifold. That's sick. What else did we do? I also revised the entire engine harness. So if you guys haven't watched any of the previous videos, the engine harness wasn't exactly lining up where it needed to be because this is a whole new setup and things are not where they used to be. So I got all of that sorted. I extended the coolant temp sensor, the manifold temp sensors on. I readjusted all of the injector harness to get it to fit up. Got the IAC and the TPS sensors plugged in. So the engine harness is now, I'd say, about 98% complete. The only things that I did not mess with was the distributor portion of the harness, because I'm pretty sure we're gonna have to adjust that once we get the distributor into place. And I can see, because the new distributor has its own little harness. It's not the same as the Ford TFI distributor where you just plug it in. The Holley DualSync actually has a harness that comes out of it, and I'm not exactly sure how long it is. So until we can get that in the car and mocked up, I won't know exactly what we need to do with the distributor wiring. So I'm just gonna wait till we get to that point to mess with that. But everything else is pretty much dialed as far as the engine harness goes. And then all of the fuel fittings that we were waiting for came in the mail. So I went ahead and got the fuel system replumbed, and I am very, very pleased with how that came out. So if you guys look, we got these U's, or 180 fittings that come off of the rails. Fuel line just goes straight back. That one goes into the right side of the regulator, and that's a new Aeromotive regulator. This side, same deal. line just goes all the way back, goes into the left side of the regulator. Then we connected our return to the regulator, that we didn't have to adjust any. And over here you can see that we have our feeds going into the back of the rails. So fuel system is 100% plumbed, and I am very, very, very stoked on how that turned out. It looks so clean, like super clean. Your boy does good work, you know, gotta give it to him. So today, I would love it if we can get the rest of the turbo kit installed on the car, or like, you know, 98% of the turbo kit installed on the car, because the one tube that goes from the compressor housing of the turbo to our U-bend here that goes into our intercooler, I'm not going to install because it comes very, very close to the crank pulley down here, and I think it'll be in our way when we go to remove the crank pulley to install the balancer. So I'm just not gonna put that piece in just now, but that's no big deal. That's easy. That can get installed later on in 5 to 10 minutes. So the plan is to get our charge pipe fabricated and into place, because we have to do some cutting and some welding to get all that dialed in. Once we get the charge pipe fitted up properly from our throttle body to our existing tubing and all of that's dialed in, we'll move on to installing the turbo. Once we get the turbo in, I want to just make sure and double check that our up pipe still fits through our hole in the hood, and if it does, we'll be good to go. And after that, the only thing left for us to do would be to install the balancer, get all of the ignition stuff sorted, and then we can attempt to fire up the car for the first time. So it's coming up, boys. We're putting in work and we're getting this thing put back together pretty quickly. So we're gonna get to work and get the rest of this turbo kit knocked out. Look at this to-do list though. Not much left on it. We just got this side. So that's pretty sick. Also, went ahead and cleaned up the thermostat housing, threw a couple coats of paint on it. It's looking good. Waiting for the new thermostat to come in the mail. I think it's actually supposed to get delivered today. But this right here is the piece that we are going to be using to come out of our throttle body and line up with the rest of our charge pipe tubing. So I ordered this because we were running a 75mm throttle body on the car, and now we're running a 90mm throttle body on the car. 75mm is basically 3 inches, and 90mm is closer to 4 inches, and all of the tubing on the car is 3 inches. So we needed a way to seamlessly unite the 3-inch tubing on the car to the new 4-inch opening on the throttle body. And there's a couple of ways that we could have went about this. The first and most common way would be to just order a 90-degree coupler that transitions from 4 inches to 3 inches, which is the route that most guys go. Problem is, I've read of those 90-degree couplers kind of collapsing under load. So like when the car is sucking in air, if it sucks in air hard enough, the coupler can actually collapse on itself, and as you can imagine, that's no good. So I wanted to go with a solid piece, and I ended up finding this guy. So this opening here is 3 inches and will line up or meet up perfectly with all of the pre-existing tubing on the car, and then this side of the 90-degree piece is 4 inches and will line up perfectly with our throttle body. So the plan is to get this guy to mount up to the throttle body, weld this guy up to our pre-existing charge pipe, and get everything to line up. Problem is, we need to get this to fit without hitting our hood, because if you look here, here's the lowest point of our hood. If this comes down, we only got about 1.5 inches, 2 inches maybe coming out of the throttle body before, you know, it's gonna be real close here. So we need to get this just right to fit properly and not come in contact with our hood. Got it trimmed up, thrown into place, and now if we close the hood, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to show you guys this, but I'll try. Our clearance is about, it's about a credit card, if that. But there is clearance. I don't know if it'll come out on camera. You can see the light beam. See the light right there? So it's tight, but she clears. And you know, if she decides to rub a little bit, some self-clearance never hurt nobody, you know what I'm saying? So now that we got that fit up, I also cut the 90-degree piece off of our pre-existing charge pipe. So now we can put this into place like so. See, that'll line up right there to that. That'll go down and line up there. We're just gonna have to make this piece a little bit longer. As you guys can see, we've modified it in the past, so I'll just cut it off, measure the gap that we need, add that to the length of this piece, cut out a fresh piece of tubing, weld it into place, and then everything should line up perfectly. But yeah, sweet. But first things first, I want to get that piece tacked up to this piece and make it one piece. Fab charge pipe, done. Check it out. It is not perfect, but hey, nothing in life is. Ideally, I would love to redo all of the intake piping on this car one day, because it's just, you know, I feel like I could be a lot better. But for right now, I got my hands full and I just want to get the car put back together and up and running as fast as possible. Later on down the road, once we get this whole new setup sorted, we can go back and, you know, change things up here and there to continue to make the car better. But for right now, we just need to get this thing all slapped back together. Right here you can see that we are still just barely touching the hood, but the hood fully closes. And once the hood is fully closed, you know, we're just barely making contact, whereas before the hood was like an inch too high. It wasn't even coming close to closing. So we're good now. I'm happy with that. A little bit of self-clearance, like I said, won't hurt nobody. So I think we're golden, and it's just barely touching. Just barely touching. So we'll be all right. Next thing we need to do is get the turbo into place. We can connect the oil drain. I think I'm missing a fitting for the oil feed, so I'm gonna have to order that, and we're gonna have to wait to put the oil feed into place. But we can get the turbo on, clock the turbo correctly, and hopefully install our up pipe and be one step closer to having this thing all put back together. I am stoked. Oh, also check this out, my custom hose clamps. You guys like that? I can't take full credit. I got the idea from Prestige Motorsports, but they're just some regular hose clamps I picked up from Home Depot, and then you wrap them in electrical tape and hit them with the heat gun, and they come out pretty dope. So that's sick. All right, let's get the turbo and start to get that thing installed. Open this guy up. Oof. Good morning, beautiful. Hell yeah. Gently put our new turb ski in place. Got the compressor housing bolts loose, so now we can slowly clock the turb ski. Hey yo, can't make this shit up. If it's not one thing, it's another. So I threw the up pipe on there just to kind of get a better idea of where the turbo needs to sit, just so everything, you know, fits, because we are working with such tight clearances. And of course, you know, when I put this filter on the valve cover, there was people saying like, oh, it's gonna hit your throttle body. Well, that wasn't the case, because we have a completely different intake manifold. So as you can see, we're nowhere near hitting the throttle body. So I thought we were in the clear. And if you look right here, see this gap right here? If the camera will focus, this gap right here from the V-band to the V-band on the turbo, I can't close that because that'll push the exhaust over this way more. And as you can see, it's hitting the dang filter, man. So it's like, yo, damn it, bro. I'm just gonna keep my vibes up though, you know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna let it get me down. We're just gonna keep pushing through it. So I gotta pull the filter out to be able to slide the exhaust over more, so it sits, or so it seals properly with the housing of the turbo, which means we're not gonna be able to run a filter on the valve cover. So I think my next option to seal up the holes on the valve covers is to find little bungs that'll plug into the valve cover and have -10 AN fittings on the top, so then I can run a catch can, and hopefully, you know, that'll give us the room that we need in order to get everything to fit. But it's just like, yo, one thing after another. Those little filters were not cheap and, you know, don't work. So it's just like more money, more money. Miss Parker's like, oh, you thought you were done spending money? Nah, you little bitch, you. I'm just getting started. But like I said, we're keeping our vibes up. Positive note, the exhaust does look like it'll fit through our hole in the hood as long as I can get it to sit properly or meet up properly with the back housing of the turbo. The other thing is that this compressor housing is very, very, very close to the alternator. So we're gonna try to make this work. No, let's just not even say that. We're gonna make this work. Peep this. Ready? It doesn't hit the pipe, but it scrapes those little fibers from the heat wrap. But gosh dang, it's in there. Oof. Take a second real quick. We gotta finesse all this stuff to fit properly, but gosh dang, it looks good with everything in there together. Holy moly. Ready? Ready? Sheesh. Sheesh. Hey, the hood exit. It's been a minute, Miss Parker. We haven't seen the hood exit in a minute, and to be honest, I feel like it's sticking out farther now than it was before. Damn, that's tight. Super tight. All right, well, at least I know it works. I just had to pull that filter out. If you guys can see right there how close the exhaust gets to the diameter of that opening in the valve cover. But I think I can put a little AN bung in there. Like I said, the actual exhaust is not touching the valve cover at all. It's just too close to the opening on the valve cover. So we'll get something figured out. Right now, I'm just happy that we got this all sitting in here like this. So it's tight. It's real tight, but I think we can make it work. Oof. So close. But also, so good. It's just like, yo, it's just a Fox body. Oh, cool, bro. You got just a standard on-3 turbo kit in that bit? Nah, boy, we got a little bit more work than just a standard on-3 turbo kit in that bit. This thing look crazy, ain't it? Hell yeah. Also, not to mention, I don't say this often, but look, there's a lot of guys doing stuff like this to their Fox bodies, but pay attention to how clean the engine bay is. Where are all the wires? Where are my brake lines? You can't see shit in here, boys. That's it. This is pretty much how it looks when everything is put together and running. And there's no harnesses to be seen except for, you know, sitting on the inside of each valve cover. But in the back there ain't shit. No brake lines, no wiper motor. This thing is clean, boys. Super clean. You don't even see the harness for the fans. Why? Because I have it tucked underneath the tube for the tubular front end. Same deal over here. The vacuum line for the blow-off valve tucked underneath the tube for the front end. It's just clean work. Clean work, and it looks so dang good. Hell yeah. Alright, I'm clocking the center of the turbo now, because if you guys have never done this before, you basically want your feed and drain to be perfectly vertical, so that way, you know, gravity takes place and all of your oil drains properly. So the way I did that is I just spun it. Now I put a level on top of the little oil feed flange, and you can see that we are right in the center with the bubble there. I also brought out another level just to verify, because I've had these levels for a while, so I was like, you know what, let's just make sure that it's on and the level's not messed up, and there you can see we're still centered. So now the oil feed and drain is perfectly straight, so we can tighten up the bolts on the exhaust housing part of the turbo, and that'll be set. And I'm probably gonna leave the bolts of the compressor housing loose, so when we go to put you know, the rest of our tubing into place, I have the ability to adjust it further if needed. But yeah, we got the center dialed and the exhaust housing dialed, so we can tighten those back up. We'll be good to go there, and then I think we're good. I'm gonna go ahead and put the gasket into place and bolt the turbo up. Sweet. This is how we're gonna make some clearance. Just give this heat wrap a little haircut. Just lined it up. You know what I'm saying? Just lined it up a little bit. I ain't worried about a thing, boy. I ain't worried about a thing, boy. We get shit done around here, boy. You know what I'm saying, boy? God dang. We done did it, boys. I put the gasket in, tightened down the turbo, tightened down the up pipe. So it's all good. The only thing that's not tight is the compressor housing of the turbo, because like I said, I'm gonna wait until after we install the balancer, so that way I could put the tube that goes from the turbo down there to the 180 or the U tube that goes into our intercooler. Once that's in, I can better get an idea, or I will have a better understanding of where the compressor housing of the turbo needs to be clocked, so we could do that, and then I'll tighten those bolts. But for now, she dialed, boy. Look, check it out. Oof, it just pulls the fiber back a little bit, so it's tight. I'm gonna try to maybe clear this a little bit just so it don't destroy that. But other than that, we're good. Hood is fully closed, which was one of our main concerns in the beginning of the day because of that thick boy right there. But we good, man. We in there. Shh. People be doubting me. I don't know why. I think I've proven myself time and time again. This thing looks so sick. Hold on, let me put the hood prop up so I can give you guys some better angles. And there you have it. Big old Turbski. And I already came up with a plan for this clearance right here. You guys can see I can't clock this turbo anymore this way because it's hitting the little corners of the alternator. But once we take the belt off to replace the balancer, I'll pull the alternator, I'll mark off which little like, I don't know what you would call these things. I'll just mark off the sections that are coming in contact with the turbo, and we have plenty of, let me see if I can show you. Yeah, see how thick these things are? So if I just grind those down a little bit, I can open up about a 1/4 inch of clearance there, and that will be plenty. So that's the plan. My camera's blurry right now, dude. What's going on? There we go. But yeah, this thing is looking rad, yo. Look at this. Miss Parker is super rowdy now. And it looks all put together, even though there is still a bunch of little things that we need to get sorted before we can, you know, attempt to fire this car up for the first time on the new setup. This is huge. Like, we're all pretty much put back together. We just got to do a bunch of little things. You know what they say, the last, what is it, the last 20% of the job takes 80% of the time, some shit like that. But yeah, that's where we're at. So I think now we're gonna go ahead and install the oil drain onto the turbo. Like I said, I'm waiting for a fitting for the oil feed because we just have a straight line here, and we need something that'll go into that and 90 out, so that way I can attach this to it. Actually, you know what? I think it's opposite. So I think the one we have on the turbo that we're using, or that we were using, I think the actual I don't know, I gotta go check, but I think the actual turbo housing is a male. So the 90-degree fitting that we have on there is female, whereas I need this 90-degree fitting to be a male to male, if you guys are following me. But if not, no big deal. That's just little things I gotta worry about. You don't gotta get concerned with any of that. But yo, let's go look from the other side. This is just my favorite side of the car now, because like that look right there, Proper. Here's the other side. Still looks good, but it's not that side. Miss Parker's passenger side is her good side. Like, you know when girls are taking photos, they're like, no, get a picture of me on my good side. Miss Parker's good side is her passenger side, because she looks so sick from that. I mean, it looks sick from here too. Like, look at that. Holy crap, right? Kinda insane, not even gonna lie. Thing's kind of insane looking. Big old turbo. Big old turbski. Sheesh. All right, let's clean off the flange for the oil return and get that bolted into place. And then, yeah. Yo, if I got $1 for every curse word I just said in the last hour, we could build a whole nother race car. Because something simple, right? Like, oh, let's bolt up the oil drain, no big deal, right? Wrong. Yo, I don't know if you guys can see this. It's literally too thick. The oil drain bung, like the actual bung that the hose goes onto, is too thick, and you have to jam it between the flange for the turbo and the compressor housing of the turbo. Here's the other thing too, like if you guys look at this, right? Which is like, it's just, stuff like this kills me, yo. See this bolt right here, this nut? It's blurry as shit, guys, I'm sorry, but like, see that nut right there? That's one of the compressor housing nuts on the turbo to be able to clock the turbo. It's literally up against the oil drain right now. So even if we had more room right here to turn this turbo more, like look, I could turn the turbo this way, but going this way, boom, the nut is hitting the oil drain. So I can't even clock this more that way because the thickness of the bolt, which is, you know, whatever that is, a little less than 1/4 inch, is too thick, and it can't pass the oil drain hose. So I guess that is the positioning of the turbo, because there is nothing we could do about it. Because if I feel like if we took the nut out to clock the turbo more this way, it would literally, the bolt hole for that nut would end up directly in line with the oil drain, and we'd never be able to get the bolt back in. So that's just how we're gonna have to run it. I had to take the freaking hose clamp off of the oil drain hose because that little bit of clearance was like making it even more difficult. It wouldn't even come, it was like 1 inch off, guys. Like, I'm not even joking. It was like 1 inch off. I could not get it in. So right now, I don't know if I can show you this, but if we look in here, let the camera focus, the oil drain hose is literally against the exhaust manifold flange for the turbo, which you already know gets extremely hot. So I'm thinking it's only a matter of time before that burns a hole through the oil drain hose. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on that, but there's really nothing I could do. Like, I can't make more room unless I start grinding down the turbo flange to open up the gap and give us more clearance. I just don't know. But for right now, I got the bolts in, I got the gasket in, I tightened it down, and we're gonna run it like that and keep an eye on it. Hopefully she lasts, yo. I don't know what to tell you. I'm beat. Like, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I am drained. Like, I was out here screaming. Like, I wasn't having a good time. It wasn't a good time. And that's something that was like, you know, in your head, you're like, oh, 1, 2, 3, I'm just gonna boop, put the 2 bolts in, be done. No, it took fucking forever. And in the process, you can see, look at this. Our charge pipe that was just freshly done and all clean a few minutes ago is completely dirty because of me working in here, leaning up against it. I'm drenched in sweat. It's just, so, you know, it is what it is. I guess we got it in. So that's that. Also, I double checked the hardware for the oil feed and I was mistaken. So here is the plate for the new turbo. So this gets bolted onto the turbo. Here's our little fitting for our oil feed, and we need a 90-degree fitting to come off of this. So it's gonna need to be a female 90-degree to male fitting, so that way we can then plug our line into it and the 90-degree fitting that we have on our previous turbo is a male to male 90-degree fitting, because this plate actually has threads on it, threads in it, not sticking out of it, female threads in it on the previous turbo, and the 90-degree fitting screws into it, whereas we need this to screw into the new fitting. I don't know if you guys are following along, but basically we need to order a 90-degree fitting to be able to connect our oil feed line. But yeah, that's that, man. I'm pretty pumped for today. I'm exhausted like that. The oil drain was harder than fabricating the charge pipe and getting everything else in. Like, that was ridiculous, yo, for real. But we got it done. Get this out the way. I also have to search for some AN bungs that'll plug into the valve covers, because now we have to route that differently. I'm thinking I'm gonna put a catch can on the car. And I don't know, but I feel like right here would look sick if we just mounted the catch can to our tubular front end, and then we have both of our lines running to it. I think that's the plan, but as you guys know, plans often change when you're putting all this stuff together. Things don't always work out the way you anticipated them to. But we've made some huge progress today. The charge pipe got filthy. I don't know if it's coming out on camera, but yeah, I got that nice and dirty from installing the oil drain. But that's all right. It just looks like the car's been put together for a minute, which is cool. I'm cool with that. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's that. I wanted to complete the turbo kit. The turbo kit is pretty much completed. The only tube or pipe that we're missing is the one from the turbo to the 180 bend that goes into our intercooler right there. But once, like I said, I want to wait for the balancer to get installed. Once we do that, we can throw that tube in there and the system will be completely sealed up and ready to rip. So I think that's gonna be it. Damn, but look at this view right here. That's my shit. That is my shit right there, boys. So fire. Also, again, look how clean it is back there. There ain't no mess. A lot of dudes got a real sweet engine setup, but their engine bay looks like trash. Yeah, this stuff is cool, but the background, how clean everything else is, makes the difference. You know what I'm saying? Because when you look at this thing as a whole, you know, they ain't doing it like me. They just ain't. You know what I mean? But yeah, boys, I am dead tired. You guys already know the vibes. No better way to cap a solid days of work than with an ice cold brewski. I think I'm gonna go inside, shower, edit this video to drop it for you guys because we're a little bit late, but not to worry. I'm gonna get it out as soon as possible. Also, we gotta do some research, find those bungs, find the 90-degree fitting for the oil feed and all that stuff. But I am very pleased with the progress we made today. Like, god damn, that thing looks so good, man. And we're not even done yet. Like, we still have to put the turbo blanket on there. I love the way those things look. The distributor, the coil over there, we have a nice new coil that's going to be going in, getting the red out of here. So the engine bay is just going to be all black chrome and aluminum. It's going to look rad, bro. It's going to look rad. But that's going to be it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Be easy. I almost forgot. Up pipe rework. We ain't need to do that. Install turbo. Got that done. All right, now bye.